Welcome back, everyone, to the Mad Genius Thesis.
Glad to be here.
In each episode, we always dive into this whole fascinating connection
That's so interesting.
between creativity
Mm,
and mental illness.
yeah.
And today, we're looking at one of Hollywood's biggest icons, Judy Garland.
Of course, yeah.
And even before we got started with this, deep dive, using Gerald Clarke's biography, Get Happy, The Life of Judy Garland, I found something that I thought was really interesting.
Oh, okay.
Did you realize that MGM tried to control Judy's weight by feeding her, get this, just chicken soup and matzo balls?
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy image when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really kind of shows you the power that the studios had over their stars, especially the young women.
Oh, absolutely.
You can only imagine what it must have been like to be told that you're not the right size while you're carrying, the weight of a major motion picture on your shoulders.
I can't even imagine. That's just a small part of Judy Garland's story.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the very beginning. What was her childhood like?
Well, imagine this.
Okay.
You grow up in a small town with parents who are running a medicine show.
Kind of like a vaudeville act, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Judy's parents, Frank and Ethel Gum, they were all about entertainment. I mean, singing, dancing, performing, it was in their blood.
Wow.
They even toured with their own show.
Really?
They sold a homemade laxative.
That's a tough sell.
Yeah, it is.
So how did that affect Judy's early interest in performing?
Well, I mean, she made her debut when she was just 2.5 years old.
Oh, my gosh.
Singing Jingle Bells with her sisters.
Wow.
You could definitely say that performing was like breathing for her.
Uh-huh.
The whole family was musical. They eventually moved to Grand Rapids, Minnesota, where her dad, Frank, bought a movie theater.
Oh, wow.
So it was just music all the time at home.
Yeah.
All the Gum kids were either singing or playing some kind of instrument.
Oh, that sounds idyllic.
It does.
But do you think there was a lot of pressure to perform?
Oh, I'm sure there was a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, even before MGM came into the picture, Judy was already living and breathing this world of show business.
That's true.
And it makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
Did being immersed in show business so early contribute to her talent,
Yeah.
but also maybe to some of her later struggles?
It makes you wonder. We talk about that a lot on this show.
Right.
Besides this pressure to perform,
Yeah.
her family life was kind of complex too, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was reading about that.
It was.
Her parents' relationship was tumultuous, wasn't it?
It really was. Frank was known to be a really warm and loving dad.
Okay.
And Ethel was known to be a lot more controlling,
Mm.
especially when it came to Judy's career.
Yeah.
She really saw Judy's talent as a way to get to a better life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sadly, Frank died when Judy was only 12,
That
leaving her feeling really lost and vulnerable.
must have been so hard, especially at that age. Did that affect Ethel's relationship with Judy at all?
It seems like it made their relationship even worse.
Oh.
Ethel ended up marrying a guy named Will Gilmore, who Clarke describes as being pretty mean to Judy.
Oh, no.
So can you imagine losing your father
Yeah.
and then having a stepfather who just makes everything worse?
Oh, that's terrible. That's a
Yeah.
lot for a young girl to deal with. So it seems like even before Hollywood, things were kind of falling apart.
Yeah.
Did that affect her career at all?
Well, it's really hard to say for sure,
Yeah.
but it definitely adds a whole other layer to her story.
Oh, for sure.
Right around this time, her family moved to Lancaster, California,
Okay.
and Judy started performing as, get this, Babe and the Gum Sisters act.
Babe Garland. I like
It's
it.
catchy, right?
Yeah.
But that name didn't last very long.
Oh, really?
They ended up going with the name Garland,
Okay.
and the trio decided to head to Hollywood.
So that's where MGM comes in, right?
Oh, that's right.
The studio that would make her a star, but also, as we were saying, try to control her.
Yeah.
So what was their vision for her?
Wow.
And how did it affect her early career? Because, this is where we really see that connection between the pressures of fame
Right.
and maybe a more fragile mental state.
Yes. Well, MGM, they were like a star-making machine,
Yeah.
but they were also all about control.
Right.
They wanted Judy to be this, like, wholesome girl next door type.
Uh-huh.
And that meant changing her to fit their vision.
Yeah.
Remember the chicken soup and matzo balls?
Yeah.
That's just one way they tried to manage her weight.
Just like they were trying to create a living doll.
Right.
Shaping her into exactly what they wanted.
Exactly.
Did she ever resist any of this control?
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine, like, a teenager
Right.
going up against these big studio heads at MGM.
Yeah.
Clarke's biography, it suggests that she was starting to get uncomfortable. You sense this gap between the happy persona she had on screen and all the pressure she was facing off screen.
It's sad to think about a young girl
Yeah.
dealing with these huge expectations.
Right.
Especially with her family situation already kind of shaky.
Exactly.
And that was just the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, what about the price of stardom? How did all
Wow.
the demands of her career affect her well-being?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
All those endless hours of work,
Right.
the crazy filming schedules,
Yeah.
and just constantly being watched by the press.
Oh, yeah.
She had so much pressure to keep making hits.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add in the darker side of the studio system,
Right.
inappropriate advances from executives trying to control her personal life.
Yeah.
All of that added to what she was already going through.
It's like the studio system itself was set up to cause mental and emotional problems,
Oh, absolutely.
especially for someone like Judy, who was already dealing with so much. It must have been so damaging.
Totally.
And she was still just a teenager
I know.
trying to figure out adulthood
Yeah.
while also being in the spotlight.
Yeah. And being told what to look like, how to act, and even who to love.
And speaking of love, her relationships were pretty intense, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. Lots of ups and downs.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a connection between her turbulent personal life
Yeah.
and the pressures of her career?
Maybe.
There's definitely a pattern there
Uh-huh.
of intensity and instability.
Yeah.
She married David Rose, the composer, when she was only 19.
Wow.
It didn't last long.
Hmm.
Then came Vincente Minnelli,
Right.
who she had Liza with,
Uh-huh.
and then Sid Luft, her manager,
Right.
who a lot of people believed was pretty controlling.
Mhm.
Each relationship had its good and bad times,
Yeah.
kind of reflecting the ups and downs of her career.
It's like she was always drawn to these passionate, dramatic relationships.
Yeah,
Maybe because that was the only world she knew.
right.
The world of performing and these larger-than-life emotions.
That's an interesting thought. And we have to remember,
Yeah.
back then, people didn't really understand mental health.
No, they didn't.
It was a very different time.
It was.
Mental illness was seen as something to be ashamed of,
Yeah.
and there weren't many treatment options.
So how did Judy deal with all the pressure and the personal struggles?
Sadly, she started using substances to feel better,
Oh.
which is something we see a lot
Yeah.
with amazing artists who are struggling.
Right.
The pressure, the lack of support, and
Yeah.
all the emotional turmoil,
Right.
it led her down a path of addiction. And then, of course, there were the breakdowns, the suicide attempts,
Right.
all documented in Clarke's book.
It's a tragic cycle, you know,
Yeah.
the thing that brings you joy,
Uh-huh.
like the art, the performing,
Yeah.
becomes mixed with pain and
Yeah,
suffering.
it does.
But even with all this darkness,
Right.
her talent still shined through.
It did.
It's important to remember the amazing things she accomplished in her career.
Oh, yeah.
The Wizard of Oz,
Of course.
Meet Me in St. Louis, A Star is Born.
Classics.
These are iconic films that show off her incredible gift.
Absolutely.
I mean, who doesn't love Judy Garland as Dorothy?
It's an amazing performance.
It is.
Really cemented her place in film history.
For sure.
But even these successes had a bittersweet side to them. Take The Wizard of Oz, for instance.
Okay.
It made her a star,
Right.
but it also kind of typecast her.
Uh-huh.
And the studio kept pushing her
Yeah.
to maintain a certain image, to meet crazy deadlines.
Yeah.
Even after she had so much success.
So even at the top, the pressure didn't stop.
Nope.
And this leads us to her later struggles.
Yeah.
The missed chances, the eventual decline.
Right.
How do we understand this heartbreaking path?
It's complicated.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have this incredible talent,
Right.
the raw emotion, the ability to connect with audiences in such a personal way.
Yeah.
But then there's this tragic undercurrent of exploitation.
Right.
The pressure to be something she wasn't.
Yeah.
And the personal struggles that just took over everything.
It's like she was trapped
Yeah.
between her amazing talent
Uh-huh.
and the people who wanted to control and use it.
Right.
So how did her later years reflect this?
Well, her career was full of ups and downs.
Okay.
Moments of pure brilliance
Yeah.
mixed with instability and disappointment.
Right.
She did concert tours that showed off her amazing voice,
Yeah.
reminding everyone why they loved her.
Yeah.
But there were also missed chances,
Mhm.
films that didn't really capture her earlier magic,
Right.
and of course the constant fight with addiction.
It's like her life became this public spectacle, a
Mhm.
performance happening on a world stage.
with everyone watching, judging,
Right.
waiting to see what happens next.
Yeah.
And sadly, the last act was full of decline and heartbreak.
It's a difficult story to come to terms with.
It is.
We're left asking ourselves,
Yeah.
was this tragic ending unavoidable? Or were there moments where things could have gone differently?
It makes you think.
It does.
And that's something we'll keep exploring as
Yeah.
we continue looking at the life and legacy of Judy Garland.
You know, it's interesting, right? We always talk about this mad genius thesis. But when you look at Judy's story, it really makes you think how basic those labels are.
Oh, totally.
I mean, she was so much more than just mad or a genius.
Right.
She was a real person, a complex human being,
Absolutely.
trying to navigate a world that was incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what makes her so fascinating, even now.
Oh, definitely.
She was brilliant,
Yeah.
but she also had flaws. She was vulnerable,
Right.
but she was also incredibly resilient,
Yeah.
all at the same time.
It's what makes her story so compelling, you know?
Exactly.
Right.
It's her humanity that really shines through,
Mm-hmm.
even in her darkest moments.
Yeah.
But it's hard not to wonder about the studio's role in all of this.
Right.
I mean, do you think MGM is partly responsible for how things ended?
Well, it's a tough question.
Yeah.
They did give her a platform.
Right.
They helped her develop her talent.
Uh-huh.
And they helped her achieve incredible success.
Yeah.
But they also had way too much control over her. They told her what she should look like.
Yeah.
They tried to manage her weight. They even interfered in her personal relationships.
Right.
It's hard to say that this intense environment didn't play a role in her struggle.
It makes you think, you know. Can real artistic brilliance ever really, really thrive
Right.
under those kinds of suffocating conditions?
It's a good question.
Was the price of fame just too high for someone like Judy?
It's a question that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
When we talk about brilliant artists. Did the pressures of fame make her existing problems worse?
Yeah.
Or were they the actual cause of her struggles? It's hard to know for sure.
Yeah.
But the line between the art and the artist is often very blurry.
Absolutely. And this brings us back to you and the research you've been doing. What really stands out to you about Judy's story? What parts resonate with you the most as you think about this link between creativity and mental illness?
I think for me, it's how her story shows the hidden cost of being a brilliant artist.
Yeah.
We see these amazing performances, the iconic songs,
Right.
but we don't always see the personal struggles, the sacrifices, the intense pressure that often comes with that kind of creative genius.
That's true. And it reminds us that we can't really separate the art from the artist.
Yeah.
The pain, the joy, the vulnerability, it all goes into the work. And in Judy's case, that vulnerability was both her strength and her weakness.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Maybe her story is a kind of a warning, a reminder to be more aware of the expectations we put on artists, the pressure we put on them, and the impact it can have on their well-being.
It's an important message, especially today.
Oh, absolutely.
When social media makes everything so much more intense.
Right.
For people in the public eye.
We need more compassion and understanding now more than ever.
So true. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the life of Judy Garland,
okay,
what's the one thing you'd want our listeners to take away from this?
I would say this. Judy Garland's story shows us that behind every amazing performance, every powerful song, there's a human being with their own story, their own battles.
Yeah.
So let's celebrate the art, but also remember the person.
Absolutely.
And let's try to create a world where brilliance can thrive without leading to self-destruction.
Well said.
Yeah.
And to everyone listening, we hope this exploration of Judy Garland's life has given you a deeper understanding of the complex relationship between creativity and mental illness.
Yes.
Was she a mad genius?
No.
That's for you to decide.
Right.
But one thing is certain. Her legacy continues to inspire and make us think, reminding us of both the strength and the fragility of the human spirit.